Fox News alert just moments ago, U.S. Central Command announcing fresh new airstrikes against Iran for the third consecutive night. U.S. strikes are reportedly against Iranian military targets, coastal surveillance systems, drone and missile capabilities. This comes after previous airstrikes and after President Trump declared America as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait and will reinstate the Iranian blockade and slap a 20% fee tomorrow. Here's the president elaborating more on Fox and Friends.
We're going to keep the Strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the Strait. Maybe we'll call it the guardian angel of the Strait. And we should be reimbursed for that. When we do that, we're going to be reimbursed because the other nations are very wealthy. They're on our side. And we can't be expected to do that for nothing, unlike we had for many years.
Okay, Emily, guardian angel of the Strait. Do you like the ring of that?
I love the ring of it. I think the important question is whether it's successful. Look, I think a lot of Americans feel a measure of exhaustion about this and in the details. And the question everyone is asking is, what is success? And when can we breathe easily that gas prices are stable, oil prices are stable, and that our troops are safe, that the commander-in-chief is secure also in his safety, as he's talked about the 18th assassination plot against him. So we are now privy to a media coverage that gives us details and play-by-plays every day and every hour. Now we're in the third night in a row that American forces are striking Iran, deservedly so. But I know many Americans think essentially, why are we negotiating? Why are we negotiating with terrorists here? So a lot of people support, clearly there's a ton of economic options and military options that remain. And I think many people support a lot of these military options so that it can be finally done. That's right. And Jesse, people are saying, why are we negotiating with these people? But the thing is, wasn't that baked into the negotiations originally? They had to make these touchstones. They had to move along and they had to meet the demands of the United States to get the agreement. So this is what the Hawk said, let's go in and finish the job. And then the people who wanted to make the deal said, look, if they don't agree to what we're proposing here, then we're going to have to hit them again. That's what's happening. Everyone knew this was going to happen.
That's why they structured the deal like that. And they violated it. They said they wouldn't clip tankers, they wouldn't toll, they did both. So for the last 3 nights, it's been more than a love tap. Trump's been calling it a bitch slap. Heavy airstrikes all along the southern coastline. And the president, I think, has run out of patience. He gave peace a chance. They violated the terms of the sheet they signed. So the blockade's back, the sanctions are back, and I think you're going to see possibly a resumption of major combat operations. We'll see. We still have 2 carriers there. We still have 15 warships there. The southern route along the Oman coast is wide open. It's free under an American security umbrella. Ships are getting out. But what's happened is the decapitation strikes in the first couple weeks of this operation were so devastating, we basically fractured their leadership. So the people that signed this thing, they're just the politicians. The people with the guns, the military, they're seeing their power slipping away if they have peace. And they're seeing their money dry up. So they're trying to toll, they're trying to get a little action. But this is a big miscalculation because Trump has had it.
Harold, how else do you deal with these guys? Did you see their latest, I call it a hit list. They said it's their revenge list. Macron is #1, Starmer, and Trump. He listed all 3 of those, okay? The Iranians did. But Macron and Starmer, they're not exactly hawks. They want to make a deal. They want to be conciliatory. So they want revenge on them as well. How else is Trump supposed to deal with Iran?
Well, as I've said many times and many evenings on the show, the president should stop talking and just start acting. We have been threatening to obliterate them. The president uses all kinds of very strong action verbs on Truth Social to say what he's going to do if they don't do certain things. I've been a proponent for, if we're going to engage in negotiations and engage in dialogue with them, we should continue to do this. We should have never stopped doing this. I think we lost some ground over the last several weeks when it was clear that they were violating the Memorandum of Understanding, and it was clear that the Strait of Hormuz was not fully open. Now, I would remind everybody, several months ago when the president began talking about military strikes, A lot of it, Tom, was because of the economic strife there in Iran. You may recall there was a run on a bank. There were people out protesting, thousands of people out protesting, and the Iranians were firing on the people. And the president said, our president said, you're not going to fire on those people. We're going to come to help. We started our military operation, and the president that same evening said the people in Iran should rise up and take their country back. We are here to be helpful. Iran is the size of a couple Californias. It's not like you couldn't even attack meatpacking district in New York City and tell people on the Upper East Side to rise up. This was not realistic in so many ways. We fast forward, we talked about nuclear material, eliminating their ballistic missile capability, the ability to strike. And then the Strait of Hormuz has now become the primary objective. I hope the president continues to do this, but I hope he gives us a speech, because I think the country needs to understand, and Emily was touching on it in many parts of what she said at the outset. Are we continuing this effort because we want to eliminate their nuclear capabilities? We want to eliminate their ability to fire ballistic missiles. We want to eliminate their ability to fund proxies, or we want the Strait of Hormuz open. It's my hunch now that it's about the Strait of Hormuz, because if you get the Strait of Hormuz open, you're able to calm global markets. You're able to calm prices here in the country. And what we have to realize is that the Iranians, as I've said many times on the show, they read the art of the deal too. They've watched the president, and they also have a real good hint that we have elections coming up in November. So they're going to continue to do this, especially if they believe the American people don't fully know what our objective is here, and if they believe the American people might be a little wobbly because gas prices are creeping back up again.
Just to add to that, it's about the Strait of Hormuz, but to also cut off Iran economically, which a lot of the experts we have on the air every day, Dan Hoffman and others, say you've got to choke them off. You've got to choke them off economically. And according to that statement from Central Command, they said these strikes will continue imposing a heavy cost on Iranian forces and degrade their ability to attack innocent civilians and commercial shipping in the Strait. That being said, just looking at oil markets, which now are around the clock, oil up about 9% right now. So that's a pretty big reaction, although still below $80 a barrel, right at about 78 right now. This says gas prices have been coming down. President Trump's efforts, if you've heard him in the past 24 hours, continue to be to instill confidence in the markets that this is going to open, that this will remain open. So to your point, Harold, his focus has and always has been on the Strait of Hormuz. Why? A fifth of the world's oil supply moves through there. I mean, the world depends on the oil that moves through there and the commercial shipping that moves through there every single day. So this is the fifth round. I don't know. This is the fifth round in a week. We just saw the letter from the White House notifying Congress. This is obviously escalation and additional action on the part of the White House.
I am so much smarter than I was when this segment started.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.